My wife cheated on me with her boss, then secretly transferred $250, $0 from our joint account to her sister's name just before filing for divorce over the house worth $600, $0. Now she's claiming I'm the one stealing because I found the transfer records. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife turned out to be a lying, cheating piece of work. Honestly, I thought we had a good thing going, married for 7 years, 2 kids, a decent life. But then out of nowhere, everything exploded. The thing is, I caught her with her boss, Mark. Yeah, Mark. The guy she always said she hated because he was so sleazy. But it turns out she was screwing him behind my back for months. The worst part, I found out not because she slipped up or because she told me. No, I found out because I was snooping around her phone and saw a string of texts that made my stomach drop. It started with little things. His attitude changed. She was more distant, secretive even. She'd go out for groceries and come back hours later smelling like perfume I didn't recognize. She'd get defensive when I asked about her phone, say she was talking to her sister or working late. I didn't think much of it at first. People change, right? But then I noticed her phone would be hidden even when she was in the shower, and she'd delete messages or clear her browsing history. I started feeling like I was losing my wife, but I didn't want to believe it. One night I decided to check her phone when she was asleep. I figured I'd catch her in a lie, and I did. There were texts from Mark, flirty and suggestive. It was obvious they'd been sleeping together. The worst part, she was also talking about money, saying how she wanted to take care of everything and cover her bases in case I found out. She even mentioned transferring money from our joint account to her sister's name, Lisa, just before she filed for divorce. That was the real kick in the teeth. She was planning to leave me with nothing, and she'd already moved thousands of dollars into Lisa's account. I couldn't believe how cold and calculated she was. When I confronted her, everything at first, she said I was paranoid, that I was reading too much into things, and called me crazy for suspecting her. But I had the proof, screenshots, bank records, text messages. She kept lying, twisting it around, saying she was just talking to her boss about a promotion, that Mark was just a friend, that I was overreacting. But I knew better. I knew the truth. She was cheating, lying, and trying to cover her tracks. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, like my entire world was crashing down around me. The thing is, I loved her. I still do, I guess. But love doesn't make betrayal hurt any less. It's like I was hit by a freight train of anger, sadness, and disbelief all at once. I kept asking myself how she could do this, after all we'd been through, after everything we built. And then I found out about the money. The transfer $250, just before she filed for divorce. She transferred it to her sister's account, claiming she needed to protect her assets or some nonsense. But I knew it was just her way of covering her ass, of making sure she walked away with a fortune while I was left holding the bag. I was furious, betrayed, and feeling more helpless than I ever have. That's where I am now. Sitting here trying to process how someone I trusted could do this to me, cheat, steal, lie, and then turn around and accuse me of stealing because I found the evidence. It's a sickening feeling, knowing that the woman I loved is capable of all this. I want to get revenge, but I also want justice. I don't know what's worse, her betrayal or the fact that I have no idea how to even begin fixing this mess. I just know I can't stay quiet anymore. I have to do something. I have to fight back. After I uncovered everything, her affair with Mark, the money transfer, the lies, I felt like I was losing my mind. The shock started to turn into pure rage. I mean, how could she do this? How could she lie so blatantly? Cheat behind my back and then try to turn it around on me. I knew I needed to come up with a plan, but I also knew I had to be careful. Was manipulative. She always knew how to twist things in her favor, especially when she was cornered. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. That night, I stayed up late, going through every bank statement, every message I'd saved. I wanted to understand her game. How deep did this go? Turns out the transfer of $250, $0 was just the tip of the iceberg. I found out she'd been secretly siphoning money from our joint account over the past 6 months, slowly but surely. Small amounts at first, 10, 0 here, $15, $0 there. I never noticed because I was busy with work. She was smart about it, using different accounts, fake invoices, and even some offshore accounts to hide her tracks. I also learned she'd been secretly meeting Mark in hotels, sometimes in the middle of the day when I thought she was at work. These weren't just quick affairs, they were long, passionate rendezvous. I found receipts from expensive restaurants, hotel invoices, and even a condom wrapper in her purse. I wanted to vomit. The woman I married was sleeping around, lying, stealing money, and plotting her escape all at once. I knew I had to act fast, so I started gathering everything: screenshots, bank records, hotel receipts. I wanted proof that I could use if I needed to fight for custody or the house. I also contacted a lawyer, just to get some advice on how to handle the financial mess she'd left behind. I told the lawyer about the transfer, the affair, everything. She listened carefully and then told me I had a strong case for fraud and infidelity. That gave me some hope, but I also knew was dangerous. She'd do anything to protect herself now. Meanwhile, kept denying everything, of course. She'd spin stories about how I was crazy, paranoid, or accusing her without proof. She threw in some tears, some accusations of her own, saying I was abusive, controlling, and that I was trying to ruin her. Honestly, I was too angry to care. I knew the truth, and I had all the evidence. She was trying to gaslight me, but I saw through her. The more she lied, the more I realized how far she'd gone to cover her tracks. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time I was prepared. I set up a recording on my phone just in case she tried to lie her way out of it. When I brought her into the living room, I laid everything out: her texts, the bank transfers, the hotel receipts. Her face went pale. She tried to deny, but I had her cornered. I told her I knew about her affair, the money transfer, everything. Her response: she burst into tears, claiming I was accusing her without cause, that she was under so much stress, and that she still loved me. Yeah, right. That's when I saw the real her, the manipulative, selfish, lying bitch she's been hiding behind her perfect smile. The worst part, she then started to spin a new story, saying she was doing all this for us, that she was trying to protect her sister, and that I was blowing everything out of proportion. She looked me dead in the eyes and said she was done with this marriage, that she wanted a divorce, and that she was going to take everything, including the house. I was stunned. I'd always thought she was smarter than that, but her desperation was clear. She was trying to save herself, even if it meant destroying us both. I felt a mix of disgust and heartbreak. I loved her once, but now I saw her for what she really was: a liar, a cheat, a thief. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I'd trusted her, built a life with her, and now I was left with nothing but a mountain of lies and betrayal. But I knew one thing: I wasn't going down without a fight. I had the evidence, and I was going to use it. I was preparing to take her to court, to get the truth out in the open, and to make sure she paid for what she'd done. This wasn't just about money or infidelity anymore. It was about justice, and I was determined to get it. The more I dug into her lies, the more I realized how deep her deception went. Was always good at hiding what she didn't want me to see. But now, with all this evidence stacking up, I felt like I had her cornered. Still, I knew better than to trust her to come clean on her own. She was the kind of person who'd spin stories, manipulate the truth, and weasel her way out of anything if she thought she could get away with it. So, I decided to be strategic. I didn't confront her again right away. Instead, I kept gathering more proof. I hired a private investigator just to confirm everything I suspected. Turns out he caught her on camera meeting Mark in a hotel more than once. He also found out she'd been making secret deposits into her sister Lisa's account, just like I suspected. It was clear she was planning her escape, and she'd been working on it for months. I also started to piece together her financial moves. She'd taken out a second mortgage on the house, without telling me, and used some of the money to fund her secret affairs. The transfer of $250, $0 to Lisa's account, that was just her way of hiding her assets. She wanted to leave me with nothing, and she'd already started the process of moving on even before she filed for divorce. The more I learned, the angrier I got. I felt like I'd been played for a fool for years, and now I was just the last to know. Meanwhile, kept up her act playing the victim. She'd call me paranoid, accuse me of controlling her, and say I was crazy for suspecting her. She'd cry, scream, and try to turn the tables. Yesterday, she even told me she was doing this for our kids, that she wanted a better life for them, like that justifies her cheating and stealing from us. I looked at her and thought, you're lying through your teeth. I could see right through her act now. She was a master at manipulation, but I wasn't going to fall for it anymore. I decided I needed to get legal advice. I wanted to know what my options were, especially about the house and the money. The lawyer I spoke to was blunt. I had a solid case for fraud, breach of trust, and infidelity. We discussed how to freeze her accounts, how to get a court to review the transfer records, and how to protect my rights to the house. I also told her about the hotel receipts and the recordings I had. She said that if I had all this proof, I'd be in a strong position to fight for custody and a fair settlement. But what struck me most was how kept lying, even when I had her backed into a corner. She insisted she loved me, that she was trying to fix things, even as she was secretly planning her escape. That's when I realized how much she'd betrayed me. She'd turned into someone I barely recognized. I wanted to believe there was still some part of the woman I married, but the truth was, she was gone long before I caught her. She'd been betraying me in ways I never saw coming, and now I was left with the wreckage. I also started to think about how to handle the emotional fallout. I was furious, hurt, and feeling betrayed on every level, but I knew I had to stay calm and focused. If I lost my temper, I'd give her even more ammunition to twist things against me. So I kept my cool, played it smart, and continued gathering evidence. I even started to write down everything, dates, conversations, everything I could remember, just in case I needed to use it in court or for my own peace of mind. At the same time, I was trying to keep my sanity. I talked to friends, vented, and tried to stay grounded. It's hard, so hard, to realize that the woman you trusted with your life, your family, your everything, was secretly working against you all along. But I also knew I couldn't let her see me break. I had to be strong for me and my kids. The betrayal was a blow, but it also lit a fire inside me. I was going to fight to protect what was left, even if it meant tearing everything down to rebuild from the ground up. The day I finally decided to confront again, I knew I had to be prepared. I had all my evidence stacked: bank statements, hotel receipts, the recordings I'd made secretly. I wanted her to see I wasn't backing down. I arranged to meet her at her parents' house, thinking maybe she'd be more honest if she saw I was serious. Honestly, I was nervous. Part of me still hoped she'd come clean on her own, but deep down, I knew that was wishful thinking. She arrived looking defensive, her eyes darting around like she was trying to figure out what I knew. I laid everything out on the table: screenshots of her texts, the bank transfer records, the hotel invoices, the recordings. I could see her face drain of color as she realized I had her cornered. She tried to deny everything at first, but I cut her off. I told her I had proof of the affair, the money transfer, and her plan to leave with everything. Her mask of innocence crumbled and she started to crack. Her reaction was classic. She broke down into tears, claiming she'd made mistakes, that she was sorry, and that she still loved me. She begged me to forgive her, said it was just a moment of weakness, that Mark was just a fling, and that she never meant for it to get this far. I just stared at her, feeling nothing but disgust. I knew she was lying. She'd been lying to me for months. I told her I knew about her affair, the transfer, everything. She kept insisting she was innocent, that I was paranoid, but her voice cracked and her hands trembled. Then she threw in a new angle, saying she was doing all of this for us, that she was trying to protect her sister, and that she'd never hurt me on purpose. That one made me laugh bitterly. She was trying to manipulate me again, spinning stories to make herself look like the victim. I told her I didn't buy it. I told her I'd seen enough and I was done playing her game. If she thought she could lie her way out of this, she was dead wrong. I also told her I was going to take her to court. I was going to sue for full disclosure for the house, for the money she stole, and for custody of the kids. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything. She'd betrayed me, betrayed our family, and I was going to make sure she paid. Her face twisted into anger and frustration, and she yelled at me, calling me controlling, jealous, and paranoid. But I didn't care. I felt a strange sense of relief, finally confronting her face to face with everything out in the open. The thing that hit me hardest was when she looked at me with those tear-streaked eyes and said, "You're the one stealing from us," accusing me of trying to take everything she's got. That was her way of turning the tables, but I knew better now. I knew she'd been lying and scheming all along. I told her I had the evidence to prove her wrong, proof that she'd been secretly taking money, cheating, and planning her escape. I told her she'd push me to the edge, and I wasn't going to let her do this anymore. After that, she stormed out, screaming and crying, calling me crazy and delusional. I stayed there for a moment, feeling exhausted but also strangely empowered. I'd finally laid everything out, and now I knew what I had to do next. I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way out of this. I was going to fight for my rights, for my kids, and for the truth. The betrayal was a gut punch, but it also ignited a fire in me. I knew I had to be relentless if I wanted to get justice. I sat down afterward and started drafting a plan. I'd contact the lawyer again, file for divorce, and press charges if needed. I'd also look into freezing her assets and making sure she couldn't get away with the money she'd stolen. I was done being the victim. From now on, I was going to be the one in control. No more lies, no more secrets, just the truth and my fight to make things right. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Once I'd confronted and laid everything on the table, I knew I couldn't waste time. The truth was out, and I had to act fast if I wanted to protect what was mine. The first thing I did was get in touch with a top divorce attorney. I needed someone who knew how to handle cases involving financial fraud, infidelity, and asset protection. I told her everything about the transfer, the affair, the secret accounts, the hotel receipts. She listened carefully, then explained that I had a very strong case, especially with the evidence I'd gathered. We discussed my options: filing for divorce immediately, seeking full custody of the kids, and freezing her bank accounts to prevent her from moving any more money. She also advised me to get a court order to review all bank and asset records, which would help uncover any other hidden accounts or transfers might have set up. I felt a mixture of relief and rage. Relief that I had a plan, and rage because I'd been for so long. Meanwhile, was trying to spin her narrative. She call, text, even show up at my house crying, claiming she was sorry that she'd made terrible mistakes and begging me to forgive her. I blocked her calls and told her I needed space. I couldn't listen to her lies anymore. Every time she played the victim, I felt a deep disgust. She was still trying to manipulate her way out of this, trying to make me feel guilty, trying to make me doubt myself. But I knew better now. I saw her for what she was: a liar, a thief, and a master manipulator. I also started to take steps to protect myself financially. I contacted the bank to put a freeze on any large transfers from our joint account. I also instructed them to review all recent transactions and flagged the $250, $0 transfer to Lisa's account. I wanted to make sure she couldn't just walk away with everything. I also started compiling a detailed timeline of everything I discovered: dates, amounts, conversations. I knew I might need it later in court or if I decided to press charges. One of the most shocking revelations came when I learned had been secretly meeting Mark even after she filed for divorce. She'd been sneaking around, trying to keep her affair hidden. I found out through the pie that she'd been in contact with him constantly, even trying to set up a new place for them to meet once she moved out. It made my blood boil. How could she betray me so openly, so brazenly? I felt like I'd been punched again and again. Despite all this, I kept my composure. I knew I had to stay calm and focused. I didn't want her to see me break, even if inside I was shattered. I continued to gather evidence, taking screenshots of her messages and making copies of all her financial documents. I also started talking to friends and family, people I trusted, to get advice and support. It was a lonely, painful process, but I knew I couldn't do this alone. I had to be strong for myself and my kids. The hardest part was facing the reality that the woman I loved was capable of all this deception. I kept wondering how I missed the signs, how I didn't see it coming. But I also realized I couldn't change the past. All I could do now was prepare for the fight ahead. I was determined to expose her lies, protect my assets, and do whatever it took to get justice. I owed that to myself, and I owed it to my children. I was done being a victim. From now on, I was going to be the one who decided what happened next. Looking back, I realized that everything I thought I knew about was just a carefully constructed lie. The woman I married, the mother of my children, turned out to be someone I barely recognized: selfish, manipulative, and utterly untrustworthy. Filing for divorce was the hardest decision I ever made, but it was also the only way I could see to finally take control of my life again. The legal process was brutal, but with the evidence I had collected, I was able to secure a fair division of assets and custody arrangements that I could live with. The financial mess she left behind was staggering. The $250, $0 transfer to her sister's account was just part of the story. There were other hidden accounts, offshore transfers, and secret debts I uncovered during the court proceedings. It was a long, exhausting battle to get everything sorted, but I refused to be the victim anymore. I fought tooth and nail, making sure she couldn't walk away with a penny more than what was fair, and that she was held accountable for her lies and betrayal. The emotional toll was heavy. I had to process feelings of hurt, anger, and profound disappointment. But somewhere in all that chaos, I found a strange sense of clarity. I learned that trust is fragile, and that people can hide their true selves behind masks for a long time. I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought, strong enough to survive betrayal and come out the other side still standing. Now, I focus on rebuilding my life, helping my kids heal from the chaos, and making sure I never let someone manipulate me like that again. I've cut out toxic relationships, rebuilt my confidence, and started fresh. It's not easy, and I still have moments of doubt and anger, but I'm moving forward. The lesson I take from all this is simple: never ignore the signs, trust your instincts, and always protect yourself. Because some people will lie, cheat, and steal their way right into your life, and you need to be ready to fight back. To anyone going through something similar, keep your head up. Gather your evidence, stay calm, and don't let them see you break. Justice might take time, but if you stay persistent and true to yourself, you'll come out stronger. I did, and I'm finally reclaiming my peace.